So here we got a guest everyone probably already know. You can now present yourself.
Hey everyone, it's Kantbei back again. I'm a fairly high-rated Fog player, currently outside of top 10. I had a couple of bad losses last month, but we're climbing our way back up there.
Oh, I'm surprised. I was sure you was still there. So claim your place back. You deserve it. So why did you chose that map?
um, well, first of all, it was a new map in the rotation. I really just wanted to try it out. I vaguely remember seeing like its precursor, probably like back in June, like when I first joined. Like I knew it existed, but it got taken out really quick. So I wanted to see like what they changed. The major thing is like they put like a new land a B boat on the HQ, which is really important because back then in the old version when the B boat didn't exist, everyone would just rush the HQ with an APC, or if not even an APC, like they would just build like 5 tanks. Turn 5, they would build like a tank every turn and even base skip just to rush down your HQ. And then there's like 2 infantry walking, and then that's how they'd win. So if you didn't know how to do it, like you just instantly lose. It was pretty disgusting.
And why did you pick Andy?
So I saw like the income looks fairly high. And there's a lot of like high terrain, like beyond like the shoals in the center. Like if you don't plan to ever push past that, there's a lot of really good terrain for Andy to take advantage of and for his units to survive. And like if you're Andy, you're basically not really playing to be super aggressive usually. So I thought it was fine. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like again, like Andy's just my comfort pick. So if I'm not too sure like he's bad, then I will probably just play him.
That's good. And outside of Andy, which seal would you recommend to players in this map for tier 3?
Outside of Andy, I think Rachel's probably really good here.
Rachel,
Because the
wow.
thing is, like, yeah, in my experience, and like the meta has not fully evolved yet. But right now, what I'm seeing at the highest level, everyone kind of just death balls mid really hard. The sides are just 2-3 infantry are fighting over it, but mostly all of your tanks and most of your infantry are centered somewhere between your HQ and the pipes, like on your side of the map. So it's kind of like a horizontal split. And in those kinds of cases, Rachel is pretty strong because it makes it number one. It either makes it really hard for your opponent to position their army correctly, so they don't die to a missile. Um, or if they do, like, just ignore you, right? Then you just fire the missile and then kill everything. So even Andy is not necessarily always safe to this because he has to make sure, like, on that crucial turn where Rachel fires her missile, his stuff doesn't actually die, right? So he has to like still position somewhat safely, and that's not always easy to do.
And which seal would be the worst pick for tier 3?
Worst pick for tier 3. That's a bit tough. Let's see. Probably Sanja. Yeah,
Why?
probably Sanja. Again, because like it's going to end up being a death ball fight, meaning it's really easy for your opponent to just send all their vehicles in one place, which is what they should be doing anyway. And if all the vehicles are in one place, that means like Sanja's timing window where she can use her SCOP, or the fact that you don't have all the units ready to counter her, much smaller, right? Because if you were fighting in, for example, 2 places, then you need twice the amount of anti-air, twice the amount of heavy tanks, artillery, copters, to like make sure you can fight, right? But if it's all in one place, then you just send everything there, right? And it's pretty simple. Like probably after the first SCOP, assuming she hasn't forced a lot of trades, you're fine, right? Like you can just stall her out forever.
Okay, I see. And I also realized Sanjay is not that popular in general. Do you have any theory on why people are afraid to use her?
It's not that people are afraid to use her. It's just that she's kind of generally bad. um, so the issue with Sanja is basically like all the things that I just said earlier still apply, right? Like she is not that good if you can stall her out, and there are some maps. There are actually quite a few maps where it's not trivial for her to push, and even on maps where she is like fine. Generally speaking, if you want to play aggressive, both Lash and Kindle do exactly what she does, but better. And they have longer staying power. They have better early aggression. So like, it's hard to find that niche where Sonja is actually good, right? So usually people pick her because they're memeing and not because she's actually like the best pick for that map, if you can say that.
Okay, so let's do this. I think you are in control of the replay right now.
All right. So the key thing here is like you start off with a lander, and this lander is I think going to be fairly important. In the beginning, it's gonna help you ferry the captures. There are actually two different things you can do. First is either after you get the neutral base, of course, you can either send the lander towards the left side for you, right, or the right side for me, to accelerate all of these captures. The other thing you can do is like ferry an infantry right to the airport immediately, maybe get the port and get a few of these captures here a bit faster. Both seem fine. I don't think it's really settled what the best way to play is, which is kind of good because that means the map has some flexibility. Yep, so you do the correct response. You load your infantry, your starting infantry, and unload right away. Very good that you unload at this tile actually, because you're preserving some movement, I mean some fuel on your boat by not going here, like not going farther than you have to, right? That's
Yeah,
gonna be kind of important because like by like turn 11, like this boat is gonna run out of fuel. So every bit of fuel you save kind of matters. I do basically the exact same thing, right?
yeah,
And we're just building infantry, just doing like our regular cap phase stuff. I don't think there's a whole lot you can do here with regards to like how do you call it, recon shenanigans. I mean, it's potentially possible with like the boat, but the boat just feels more useful ferrying captures.
this is true.
One thing I will note here though is like I don't really like the boat being here as opposed to here. Because on okay, so basically if you park your boat here, you only have one option now, right? Like this boat has to go to the right because you parked it here. If you park it here, you preserve the flexibility to go either to the left or to the right until the very last moment where you have to choose. So if you're already like deciding that you want to go to the right, this is fine. But
Yeah,
me, I can be a bit indecisive, so I will usually try to like keep my options as wide as possible until I commit to a plan. So
yeah.
that's why I park mine here later on.
I always do that because I feel like the ladder is there just for the airport. That's what I noticed the first time I've seen that map. I was like, oh, ladder, airport, cool, I like it. I never really thought about using my lander otherwise, so I like seeing your take on that.
Yeah, so basically it's a question of like, do you want slightly faster income? Because like, if you go here, I think you get all these cities really, really fast, and even this city becomes really contestable.
Yeah,
Um, Going for this one is also fine, to be honest. And like, it's not as if you don't get any cities here. It's just that this base is usually also like pumping out infantry to like get all these captures anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a bit awkward for the lander to go to the right and like ferry stuff there because like it takes 2 turns I think for the lander to reach anywhere. 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, so it will land here. So it will need another turn to do anything here.
Yeah.
Um, the other option like I've considered is if this lander turbos out the captures in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't work either unless you're Sammy though. Or Drake, like anyone with the +1 move, because you get stuck here and not
Yeah.
here on the 6th move. So you could go here, but why would you, right? So there's all of these like interesting options that we could do. Like obviously if the lander was turboing out captures here, then this base would be in charge of everything here. And this side would kind of get ignored for a while. That's kind of just like unfortunately how the cap phase will work. So I'm not sure like if that's viable or if that's good. That's just like my initial observations on that.
So Drake and Sammy are actually good picks for this map because of the lander.
I would say Drake more than Sammy, but yes. So the reason why I think Drake would be pretty good is like the airport's kind of garbage in my opinion. I don't really like it that much. Because like again, if everyone's fighting in the center, then they will have AA for sure. There is no real copter tricks. Um, Drake -2, like Drake global damage is always really good. The fuel drain is also really good. The +1 move is pretty good for like turboing out capture. So yeah, Drake might be the pick here. Sammy, I don't think is very good. It's just too dominated by tanks. I'm not sure if like her mechs will be able to see that much play in the center, especially like all these low terrain stars. And even though
Yeah.
everything's in the center, um, it's dominated a lot by like moving tanks from this side to this side and like constantly checking your opponent and like looking for pressure, and that requires some mobility in the early game. If Sammy goes tanks, then maybe she's fine, but I struggle to see like how she would play effectively here, um, without like the mech support. Right? Maybe it's fine though. I'm just not a good enough Sammy player, but yeah, I'd be a bit scared to take Sammy here.
I'm curious, do you know good Sammy players? Because recently I've seen so many boom in terms of Sammy players, but most of the one I meet are actually really bad Sammy players. And sometimes they do win because obviously I'm not perfect and Sammy is a very strong seal. So even if you're a bad Sammy player, I think you can still have your chance. So do you know good Sammy players and how do they play?
Okay, so the best Sammy player by far is going to be Zeronix, but he's not super active right now, which is kind of an issue. Um, Other than him, there is Sif. Sif is fairly good at Sammy, but he plays more of high funds now. In
Okay,
Fog, I'm not sure like there's anyone like really strong currently active that plays Sammy a lot. So like yeah, Zeronix if he plays Fog is really good if he ever plays Sammy, but he doesn't always play Sammy. He can play any CO though. So like that's more of a factor that he's just generally really good rather
okay,
than him being like a Sammy specialist.
okay, and you probably fought him, right?
Yeah, I fought him like maybe 2 or 3 times now.
Okay, can you tell me if he is relying a lot on his victory march or if he is more a double time user?
So basically, the idea with Sammy in Fog is you rely on your victory march more often than not, but you still keep the option of the COP open, right? Like if they put all of their infantry within like 4 move of yours, which is like the range for like the COP, then you still use it and kill all their infantry, right? Um, but if they never present that opportunity to you, then obviously you just hold it, right? So the problem with Sammy at high level is usually your opponents won't let you use your COP. But if your opponent lets you, then you should just win because you killed all their infantry or you heavily injured it, and then they can't capture anything, and then you're fine, right?
Yeah. Oh, I see. I'm actually surprised. Yeah, that's interesting. So, let's see, what is the next mistake I will be doing. I am actually surprised. Before you told me there are no recon plays. Why did you bought a recon there?
Basically, I did not realize there were no recon plays at this time because this was like the first time I was playing the map. I thought like I might have some ideas with like the lander, but in hindsight, like I think it didn't accomplish much for me. I would rather just have like another infantry.
Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. Is it still working right now?
Yep, sorry. Okay, so let's see. Do some normal captures here. Oops, we have an error. And then I boost out like an infantry towards this side. So like my plan this game was I'm gonna capture all of these first and kind of ignore this for a while. And then on your end, I think, yep, you go for the airport fast, no issues there. Go for a tank. Okay, pretty decent.
Now, I've got another question for you. The tank opening. It's my favorite opening because I truly hate the recon
Mm-hmm.
opening. But do you think it can work? Or recon are just a better opening? What is your take on that? Tank or recon opening?
Generally speaking, I would say tank first opening is a lot more viable a lot more times. The the few maps where you do see like all the high level players open recon, it's because the map did something so that recons get much stronger. But on your average fog map, if you go in blind not knowing anything, tank first is generally going to be better. On this particular map, one thing you could actually do is you delay your tank. You don't build it right like on the first possible instance, but you build it like turn 7. Because like the recon takes such a long time to arrive and do like any damage, you can delay your tank for like 1 or 2 turns and then you just get more infantry in the meantime. And then that means you will have more infantry at the front line when the tanks finally do start fighting.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that take.
But that's kind of like a yeah, it's a very interesting opening. Hogot does it quite a few times on some maps, but again, like it can be risky because I would say here like probably turn 7, maybe triple tank is probably fine. If the income works out. But yeah, or you can do go super crazy by like a neo tank or something. um,
Like you.
that was actually like one thing I was considering here because I saw the lander, right? So I was like, can I just build like a neo tank on turn 7 and just ignore tanks for a while? It didn't end up working because like I went for the recon, and then I felt like okay, I need to hold my position together somehow, so I need some tanks. But I was heavily considering it at the start, and like later down the game, we will see like a lot of heavy tanks from me, far earlier than I'd normally get them.
I'm very surprised you lost your spot in top 10. Is it because you stopped playing or people just got better?
No, so I was planning to take a break like last month, I think, or like maybe 3 weeks ago, before like the new fog rotation came out. So I kind of just resigned or like started playing really badly in a lot of games. And like you only need like a couple of losses once you're at like 1300 to drop down really far, because every loss, because of like how elo works, every loss is like weighed very proportionally against you. So like
Yeah.
you need to have like a 60 or 70% win rate against like 1200s, right, in order to stay at 1300, like high 1300.
Yeah.
And like one loss will set you back really far. So that's basically why.
Okay. Do you know the people in the top 10 right now? Outside of DJs and like Go 7? That's the only two I know.
Um, I would have to like look at the list, but I know most of them, or like I've played versus most of them.
Interesting.
Yeah, the thing is like at that level, there are not that many players you can play against because of like the matching algorithm. There simply aren't enough people. So if you play as many games as I do, like it's inevitable that you play everyone that you can play.
Yeah.
uh
But lately, uh, did you realize there were weird things happening with the matchups? Because I feel like I have a lot of fight against 11 hundreds, and I'm not even 1000. So I feel like the matchup recently, at least, are kind of weird.
I haven't noticed anything with it, and it might just be like a timing issue, or like for example, there might not be that many 900s or like 1000s playing at the moment, so like you get a bunch of 1100s. It could also be possible like that the 1100s up their game count by a lot, and the system is trying to get the matches. So like at the higher levels, your range to get matched with lower level players is a lot bigger. That's because like otherwise they won't get any games.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand now. I do understand why I get a lot of 1000, and that's fine because that's how I improved. But when I see what Gaia 1100, I'm like, oh wow, I'm gonna get crushed. I don't even have the hope to win this one. But when I see 1000, I'm like, okay, it depends on the guy win defeat ratio. If it's like 30 game win and like 5 less, I'm like, okay, I lost it. But if it's more realistic, I'm like, okay, I can do this.
So I think it's interesting that you decide not to go for the hit on this recon with your tank. Any reason why?
Um, I wasn't sure if you had tanks to back up your recon. That's the first reason. And the second reason, I like to finish off things. So if I just go there and just bite your recon without knowing if you even have a tank as backup, I will feel like I lost my tank. And yeah, as I said, I like to finish off things. So if you leave a recon at like 2 or 3 HP and you have no other unit to finish it off, I won't say it's pointless because it's still deal damage, but the recon will still do its job and go hide somewhere.
Right. Yeah, that's fair then. I think like a recon position this aggressively at like turn 7. I think you can fairly say there's probably no tank behind it. But yeah, like it's perfectly fair not to go for the hit, especially versus Andy because he just wants the charge. So if you're not killing it, why bother?
Yeah,
Um, it's also like I guess fine to hit it because again, like it's the first engagement, so like the recon won't be able to harass any captures of yours if you're afraid of that. So both options I think are fine.
I'm not
It's
really
just an
afraid of
interesting like strategic choice.
harassment because you see my tank. So if you take a bite out of one of my infantry now, I will jump on your recon and your recon will just die. So I'm not scared of your recon harassing in this area at least because I got a tank around. But yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the recon can like go off to the right, right? But then you
yeah,
have your recon to spot it anyway, so you can just kind of like chase it around. But there's potentially like some threats because like there's a lot of shoals, right?
yeah,
So there's potentially some threats where the recon outruns your tank and then gets a hit somewhere and then runs away and just does really annoying stuff.
yeah.
But again, like it's it's an idea, but it's not necessarily good.
Now I always do that in this map when I have 14k. I make transport copter, tank, infantry, infantry. Is
Mm-hmm.
it okay to transport copter even if I got a lander from the get-go? I always have a transport because the lander I feel like it's better to move like two infantry at once or like vehicle or stuff like that. And even if the lander is really good, I feel like the transport just go faster because let's be honest, there are a lot of shoal, but I feel like there's much more ground terrain than sea terrain, so the lander is really good early in the game, but later on, you cannot like push your infantry very far with it because you will prefer pushing your tanks. So, is the transport copter good in this map?
I think on the right CO it's fine. Lash is not one of the COs I normally get a T-copter with because okay, even like if I'm playing as Lash, sometimes I will just keep base skipping to get like as many tanks out as possible. Like at this point on, I would just like be spamming tanks completely and sometimes even base skipping to do that because Lash is a tempo CO, right? She's relying on like having a timing against in order to win. If this game like ends the cap phase and Lash got no damage done, Andy's probably gonna win. Alright. So like I don't really like tempo losing builds like a T-Copter here. But in general, I think T-Copter is fine. Um
Okay,
the lander later on will be wanting to transport like just vehicles, right? It won't even be transporting inf anymore. So like
yeah.
having a T-Copter to like turbo out those infantry is pretty good.
And the other reason why I like that transport copter move is the fact that um I don't want to waste my infantry just chilling there on the island, and I won't move around my lander just to pick up one infantry.
Right, yep, that's fair. Why didn't you move your lander onto like the port here?
I think I forgot. Oh no, oh I see. I wanted
Oh,
to
maybe
ferry that infantry. Yeah,
I see. Ferry it where though?
I
We'll
don't
see
know.
later on. Yeah, but
I just see
generally I
lander.
wouldn't ferry this.
I want to
Yeah,
ferry
generally
my units.
generally I wouldn't ferry this infantry anywhere. Like it's much more useful contesting this city here. And
Okay,
like if you only have two infantry in this area, it's really easy that both of them get injured and then you have a hard time taking this city. So I
okay,
generally would just leave the infantry here and park your lander on the port just to like, get more fuel, right? And then it's also closer to the bases.
yeah,
Okay, you have a recon on the right side, another tank on the left. I don't like the tank being on this city that much. Um, like if you notice, like all of your infantry on the center are kind of like undefended at the moment. If you compare it to like where my tank is positioned here, it's covering, it's making sure it can influence anything that happens on the side, but it's also making sure like my center is covered. All right, so like that's how you want to think about these things. I think it's really rare on a map where you want to actually send a tank walking down the side because like if you think about it, your tank here cannot go any further left than it already is, right? Which
yeah.
means the number of squares it influences, right? The number of squares it can move to are less than it would be if it was somewhere like here, for example, right? Which means it's exerting less influence on the map by virtue of having less moves, right? Like that's the mathematical way to think about it.
Oh, that's good. I like that approach.
I think fairly decent so far. I don't hate the anti-air because like again you recognize you're pushing into my airport side, so you want a fast anti-air. This is very good. Second recon here I think is fine. You do need some vision on this area also
Yeah.
because like you're kind of blind, especially like with two transports with a lot of inf, but no vehicle means you need some kind of idea what's going on there. I think fairly normal moves so far. As you can see, like we're already starting to clump up in the center really hard. Like all of our units are already here,
Yeah.
and this is kind of like why I don't like this map so much. When I played versus Tordred here really recently, it ended like I think yesterday or 2 days ago. We were playing an Olaf mirror, and the game went on until day 40 until I lost.
What?
It was a 40-day fight. Yeah, because
Oh,
all of our vehicles are in the center. No one could make any progress for a really really long time. Until like eventually I got out tacticked in a fight and then I lost. But the it's kind of ridiculous that any map um a fight can go that long without anyone winning. I think that should be really really rare. And Tordred is like a stronger player than I am for sure. So in my opinion, it should not have lasted that long if this was a good map. Which is
that's
why like we kind of like don't like this map anymore.
that's disgusting. 40 days. Like, I
Yeah.
think on Global League, my longest game was like 38 days because the guy just didn't want to resign, and I think it was like Stern versus Drake. I was like, well, just resign, buddy. You lost. But he never wanted to resign. My longest game was on casual games. It was a very small map, but we were only stalemate, and it was like 43-day ish, and we had an agreement. If the game would reach 45 days, we would declare it a draw if nobody wins. But then day 43, one of us won.
Okay, so I see. You ferried your infantry here um, towards the center, which again I don't really like for what we discussed earlier. Um, the second problem for your T-Copter here is now it kind of doesn't know what it's going to do from this point on. Um, Going here to ferry the infantry is fine, I guess, but I would prefer it here if you plan to build an infantry from this base. Because like this infantry is already like kind of forward anyway.
Yeah.
Where would you even boost it to, right? Like if you go to the right side, then like this lander should never have brought it back here anyway. If it goes towards the center, that's fine, but it doesn't really accomplish anything because you already have infantry there, and like it's not as if an extra infantry will change anything in this area. So yeah, this is the main issue with the T-Copter, right? Like yeah, after like the first infantry gets moved out, like what value does it provide to you?
Yeah.
Because like you're 5,000 down, right? So you have
Yeah.
to like find 5,000 worth of value for it to do. And if it was simply moving the infantry out of the island without wasting your lander, then you've traded away. You have 1,000 funds more active, but you spent 5,000 to do it. It's not really a good trade, right? So this is the issue with the T-Copter. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but I just don't know. I haven't figured out like how to make it work optimally yet. And again, like we've discussed before, with transports you really need to play optimally, or you're probably not gonna get enough value to justify anything.
Yeah.
This attack in the center is, I think, quite risky for you. I don't think I would have done it myself, especially since like you only have like one. Well, okay, you have two tanks out here, so maybe it's fine. But it is like really close to my base here, so I would be a bit scared to make this kind of play. The other thing is, okay, no, this makes sense then, because this tank can cover the recon. I was gonna say like why park the recon on the shoulders of the plane, but it's so your second tank can reach it. In
Yep.
that case, that makes sense. Um, okay, let's see what else you do. Recon, artillery, I don't really like. But yeah, I guess you just wanted the vehicle build, right? Because like you had 14k.
Yeah. And I also
Yeah,
wanted to
that's the only
maybe
reason.
push your black boat if I can. I knew I would not win like that, but a man got to try, right?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, right? And like that's the exact same idea with my artillery. Like I don't actually think I'm gonna HQ cap you, but by parking it here and exerting pressure, maybe I force out a mistake or something, and then that gives me opportunities to play elsewhere. So, you know, it's perfectly fine to like try to look for threats, even if you don't think they'll work, just because they might force a reaction. And like an HQ threat is a forcing move, right? So they have to react or they might lose.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Um, we just go
Oof.
after all your infantry,
Oh, oh,
kill your recon,
oh.
and
At
then as
that
you can see, like
at that turn, I thought I should resign, but I was like, I will do replay commentary on that, and I want to see more than just 10 days. But at that point, I was like, okay, it's already falling apart.
I mean, okay, so the attack was bad, but like it's not yet completely lost, right? And again, like you can see why I say like the tank should be here instead of like at the side. Because if it's here, it can instantly move to the left or like to the center to reinforce any fight that happens there within a turn, right? So
Yeah,
like by the fact that it's here and not here, it influences more of the board and makes it overall makes you safer, right? Because like it can be in more places instantly to respond to a threat. And that's important because you don't have vision, right? Like it's
yeah,
fog. So the fact that you don't know where everything is part of the thing that you have to account for and you have to play around. Um, Personally, for me, like I was kind of afraid of doing this attack, but I thought like I might as well go for it. The reason why is because I cut off my tank production like a turn before in order to like get this medium tank. I actually wanted a Neo, but I think the funds didn't work out that way. Yeah, I couldn't get a Neo. So I actually wanted a Neo. But, heavy tank is pretty good. So this is a super early timing for me. I usually won't consider a heavy tank until I have like 6 tanks at least. This is a very, very fast timing for me. But the reason why I went for it is because I'm Andy, number one. Second thing is like your Lash. So I know like one of the things the easiest way for me to lose this game is you bait me into a fight like around this city, for example, and then every time I hit you, you park a tank there and hit back, and then it's just really, really not cost effective for me to fight like that. So I need something to push you out, right? And that's going to be the artillery, and that's going to be a heavy tank because I don't have copters yet. And I also didn't like copters so much this map. I buy them really, really late. That was actually like a really interesting move. I didn't know why you wanted to hit my recon with an infantry.
I think I
Um,
finished it off. Yeah,
was it to like kill?
yeah,
Yeah, but what you could have done is you could have hit with the tank first and then the infantry, and it does the same thing. I'm pretty sure, right? And then you
yeah.
save 5 HP on your infantry, right?
You're
So
right. I just realized
yeah,
after that. You're right. And usually that's what I do,
yeah.
but I don't know why this time around I did not do it.
The other thing, right, is like you should have done that first, cleared off this tile, and then hit my tank here. Oh wait, no, you can't because like this tank was here. Oh
Yeah.
no, this is fine then. I was thinking like this tank was somewhere here, but no, this is fine. I'd be pretty scared of taking this hit on this tank though, because like I have 3 tanks in the area. At that
Yeah.
point, you kind of just had to like cut your losses and say, okay, I'm gonna back off here, wait for reinforcements, and maybe Kantbei overextends into me or something. Who knows,
Yeah.
right? But like continuing to take on this fight here as it develops, you already know it's gonna be bad for you because it's 3 tanks to 2, and you had to
Yeah.
spend 1 tank to kill the recon.
I think at that point I was proud that I just defeated a 1000 player and I felt arrogant enough to think I had a chance. But I knew the outcome from the get go because I know you're a really good player, but you feel pride at some point and you're like, I can take on anything, and then reality smash you back.
So this was another like I think mistake. You never really want to move your this infantry can't capture the city instantly. I would never park it next to the city. Because like okay, first of all, you're Lash, so you want to sit on the highest terrain star possible.
Yeah.
while providing vision in the city, right?
Yeah.
Second thing is like if you're fighting against someone like Kindle, this is really really deadly, and even against like a normal CO, if they get to hit you from a city, like first strike from a city, and you're on a shoal, like that's the best first strike they can get, like short of like them being on an HQ or a mountain. So like it's just really not cost effective. You would have preferred to be here, and then I can't hit you, right? Because if I hit you, I have to go off the city to do it, and I probably don't want to do that.
Yeah. Usually when I'm against Kindle or Lash, I always stay away from buildings.
The other thing here, and part of the reason why like this fight on the left side is going so poorly for you, is because you have an artillery here and you have a T-copter here, right? And this is like 11,000 funds worth plus the recon 14,000. So this could have been two tanks instead somewhere on the map that is invested here, trying to ward off a single recon, which is 4K, right? So I'm 11K up from that transaction, right? Or from that
Yeah.
interaction. And this is why like tanks would have just been much better for you, and like why the T-copter doesn't get that much value, because like other than like the T-copter moving infantry back and forth, and by back and forth I mean like from here to here, not even
Uh-huh.
from here to here, right? Like this T-copter is not achieved what it wants to achieve.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just really hard. The other thing is like your artillery is not pushing my recon offensively, I think. Like it takes you so many turns to like push the recon off. If you just had a tank, this recon would already be dead, right? So this is why like tanks are just usually better. Artillery tends to be really unwieldy. If you did want an artillery, like you probably wanted it here, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe on this spot you can like threaten this, right? And
I
then you
guess
put
I
infantry
moved it
around it.
there because of the lander. Man, that lander is a trap for me.
Yeah, so usually like what I do here with the lander is I like after the cap phase is done, the lander usually hangs out somewhere here. I think like I put it here or here. One of these two spots. The idea is like yeah, so the idea is like here is 5 tiles away from this, and here is 6 tiles away, depending on what you build, and then you can also build a vehicle from here, right? And then
Yeah.
you can buy like two tanks or like a RT tank, right? And then move the lander like here. If it's here, it can move to here, right? And then you can unload two tanks here, or a tank and an A, or whatever you want to build, right? And
Yeah.
suddenly you have two tanks in the fight instantly, right? When it would normally take them like a turn longer. So this is why like the lander is really strong in the center. And then we just go for a bunch of kills on your stuff because like
Now I
why not?
noticed
Right?
something. I may have a really weak firepower because of my stupid plays, but I do have more income at that point in the game. So does this mean I had a good capture game outside of my
Um,
stupid tank moves?
I think your capture game was fine. The issue though is like, can you maintain that income, right?
Yeah,
Because like I also played like really suboptimally with Commander. Like it was kind of like not sure where it wanted to go, and then it ended up going here, which was not a lot of value. The thing is like you have not gotten this city yet, and I'm already in range to deny this city as well. So like we're even there.
yeah,
But I have gotten this city and you've gotten this city. So yeah, I'm just a bit slower tempo wise here because I didn't commit my lander heavily. So
yeah.
yeah, your capture phase you can say is superior to mine.
Okay, at least I got a win in my lost.
The other thing you might have considered here, right? It's actually you destroy your black boat, and then you hit my infantry from that HQ spot. It does like make your HQ a little bit more vulnerable, but you're a lash anyway, so you prefer to like have a tank on that spot rather than just like or a unit on that spot rather than just like a black boat.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be too scared of an HQ rush at this point in the
Okay. Now to respond to that, usually against any other player, I would be ballsy enough to kill my own black bolt to have a good strike. But it was you, and I knew you were better than me. So I was like, if I do that, I will run to my downfall.
Oh, the other thing, like, I don't think we talked about, right, is actually like this map has no combos.
Yep,
So
that's
like all of the that's actually like super important because like there are a bunch of like kills that normally would happen that don't happen on this map, and that's also part of why like this map can get a bit stalematey.
yeah,
Um, there like certain kills that you are used to because like almost every map has a tower, right? Don't exist on this map, right?
yeah,
So like the most relevant one for Lash is like for example on the city. Like if you have two tanks on planes hitting that city, that's always a kill for Lash and for Jake, right? Because
yeah.
you need 120 attack, but it doesn't work anymore for you here, and that's part of why like Andy's kind of okay here. I mean, kind of good here. No kills means Andy units survive longer, which means his SCOP gets infinite value, right? The
Yeah.
usual stuff. So yeah. One thing I would have considered as you, right, is I wouldn't have parked the artillery here. I would put it in the forest and then move the infantry here. Like, then there's no way for me to get vision on the artillery, which and
Yeah.
the artillery covers everything, and then it also is in position to defend this spot here, right? So like you're already prepared to like defend the capture.
Yeah.
So that's just like a slightly more efficient way. And then like if you want to reposition the artillery anywhere here, it also gets there faster because it doesn't have to move through the forest tile. Right? Because the forest tile is -2 move, but if you ended your turn there, then it's like saving 2 move if you're gonna reposition. So it's just like a minor tactical thing, but something to keep in mind. Then at this point, like I was super happy because I was pretty sure like okay, I think I'm gonna win this game. um, um, I don't see a whole lot of things for you here, so I was like, this is probably good for me, right? Um, it was probably a mistake in hindsight to go for this hit on the infantry, like not making sure like I can get the kill. But then again, like I had my MD here, so I was like, okay, I'm probably fine as long as like he didn't also like rush out a medium tank. Then if he did, then I probably just threw the game. But otherwise, I think I'm fine. And then on the right side, we just like keep dancing units around. I don't really want to fight there because you have more stuff than me, and as long as I keep tying down all your things here, it's not over here influencing the fight that really matters. Because on this side, no one's gonna really make a decisive breakthrough. The reason I say that is because it's a recon and an inf versus inf, and then you have an artillery, so you can push slowly, but it's not gonna be that fast.
Now, um, about my attack on your tank, do you think it could have been a better idea to kill off your 5 HP instead of damaging your 3 HP? Usually, my thought process is finish off units, especially against Andy. But the other day, you told me, or someone else, I think it was you, someone told me it can be great to damage several units instead of really pushing to kill off unit. So in this case, what would you have done? Damaging the full HP or finishing off the 5 HP tank?
Definitely go for the kill here because it's Andy, right? Like Andy, you definitely want to go for kills. The
Okay,
other thing is like the SCOP is really coming soon. Like we're already
yeah,
past half bar after that engagement, so like I'm gonna get like value pretty soon, right? So
yeah,
the only time that kind of works versus Andy is if like like it's very early into the game, right? Like the SCOP is not coming anytime soon. Then you still do like take out that tank for a couple of turns. But here, like it's possible like this tank is active again in like 2 turns, and in this case, like you might as well have just killed it, right?
yeah. Oh, that's good to know.
Against another CO though, I think like this what you did here is fine.
Okay,
Um, yeah, but Andy just forces you to play different.
yeah. It's the same thing as grit per se.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun fact,
Then
I
just
crushed grid players so much since we fought in the assassin map and you use grids. Now I just roll on them, and sometimes I admit it, they beat me, but against a grid player, I think I win 90% of the time because of you. Thank you.
like once you realize how to play versus grid, um, grid kind of sucks. Like grid kind of sucks all the way up to like 1400, and then you have like one or two players who kind of know how to like play with him. But even then, it's like it's not easy for them, right? Like they have to work so much harder to win. Um, so it's kind of like the ultimate flex to like take grit into like a high level game and then win anyway. Like that's like an incredible sign of skill. At this point, like I was very happy with my position. Like I felt like the cap phase had gone fairly okay for me. Like I wasn't down income. I think I had my medium tank out. I have my neo tank out. I have some artillery in position, and I have like this really nice cluster of units in the center. And then my SEOP is coming up soon. I have a bunch of like injured tanks, so it is gonna get some value. So yeah, I was like really happy with my position.
Right now, this is the sound of a desperate man trying to destroy a black bolt without having the firepower required for such tasks.
You also don't have like the artillery in position, which is like kind of problematic. What you could have done actually is like you send the RT and you just leave the recon, right? The
Yeah,
thing is like, as long as I don't kill the infantry, I mean, as long as I can't occupy the city, right?
yeah,
Then your recon can hit my recon from a city, and then I think that ends up being completely fine for you. Also, like you already took the capture anyway, so this artillery doesn't do anything here anymore. So we just keep like hitting stuff. Oh, and oh, I see. Yeah, I was trying to get SEOP this turn, so like I will just win, and then I do get it. Um, do I use it here? Oh, I did use it here. Interesting. Okay, I don't understand why I didn't use it here, but I guess like I wanted more. Okay. What did you do? Right now, like you're kind of just like taking really bad fights. Like you know the artillery is still here, but you still like go for the infantry. So you're gonna lose this tank. And you just the problem is like you don't have any answers here for the MD, which is why like I kind of like the idea of like a fast MD.
yeah,
If you can push your opponent out of this area, right? You effectively cut off like this base from this base, because if this base is gonna reinforce this way and this base is reinforced this way, then they can't conversion this area, which is usually where they want to be before like shifting around from the side to side, right? So like losing control of this area is really bad for you technically.
yeah. I'm on a losing state. We are near the end. Oh,
Yeah,
that.
reasonable. You didn't go for your SEOP, but again, like it doesn't do anything, so you might as well save it. And but yeah, like there's just nothing you can do at this point. I think you lost too much in that initial fight,
Yeah,
and like your answers aren't in time. Also, like your army's kind of split up, right? Like you have some tanks here, and then you have a bunch of vehicles here. But all of my stuff is kind of here, coordinating an attack here. And then once all of this is dead, then I can just go for this. And then it's like it's just really hard for you to play from that position, right? Like we just go for all the kills because it's my SEOP. I am on a massive firepower boost. And Yeah, this is a little risky, like pulling my Neo tank off of like pulling the artillery out of like the Neo tank coverage because like your Neo tank can hit it. Not that I knew you had one, but again, like as long as you don't kill it, I'm fine. Like my medium tank and some artillery will ward off your Neo for a while, and then honestly, that just gives me another excuse to buy another Neo. Like, or I might even get like an. I think I was thinking about getting a mega tank at this position. Like that's why I banked up all my income. Oh no, I didn't go for it. But yeah, like I was thinking, like I could probably go for a mega tank, right? Because I have the lander.
Yeah.
And then like mega tank would be super cool because I don't get to build them that often. Like if I build it here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I can park the lander here, then bring the mega tank here, and then it's like super powerful.
So
But yeah, you ended up.
because of the lander and make it tank are actually viable in this map.
Yeah, I would say they're pretty good. Like if you get into like the position I'm in, right? You like have a kind of big army and like you're already well rounded. Then a mega tank is fine. But obviously, like if you rush a mega tank and you only have like 3 tanks out, you're probably gonna die. Because like, what does that accomplish that a medium or a neo won't? Right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree on that. Man, thank you a lot for coming back again. Is there anything else you would like to add or any closing thought on the game?
Yeah, just be mindful of like where we're choosing to take engagements. This is why like tanks over RT usually. Um, Also, like if you know like if you understand that your opponent has more things than you in an area, you probably shouldn't fight in that area. Like it can people can get pretty desperate at times, right? When
Yeah,
they feel like they're losing, they feel like they have to take every hit. But no, the easiest way to come back in those positions is to play safe and like make your opponent overextend into you.
that's good to know, man. As usual, I am very happy to have you here. When are you training your channel? It's about time now.
Yeah, I haven't been working on it. I've been super busy lately with real life stuff. But maybe, yeah, maybe it is time because like we have those new fog maps coming. We have those new fog maps out right now, actually, so I can talk about those.
Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Kantbei. You are always the welcome because your wisdom helped me a lot to improve at the game. Thank you.
All right.